Welcome to my video on the 2004 video game Worms Forts Under Siege. Now, a couple of things to start with. This, let's see, I guess a good place to start is the game. I believe it's rated E for everyone, so this video B. There will not be spoilers. And okay, so I'm probably gonna label this when I title the video. I'm gonna label it a review. I think it's maybe fair to call it a bit of a warning. I try to be extremely selective these days with how I choose which video games to play. I'm trying to, it's, I'm pushing 40. I'm realizing, what, I don't have all the time in the world. I don't want to waste it on games that I'm not going to love. This is the first game I have played in 15 years where I found almost nothing to love about it. I'm not saying everything is wrong. I'll try to get into at least something positive, but yeah, I don't know. If you're looking for something, honestly, I don't think I'm going to get very much into detail about how the new systems work here. I would not rule out that others have explained it. And I don't know. I mean, hypothetically, if you are just if the core concept appeals to you, I would definitely say there are some interesting things done with it. So the basic new conceit here is that you are, in addition to attacking, you are also building. And yeah, there are several buildings that enable, different types of attacks, for example. And yeah, you can build, you can repair, and you are now also focusing on, right, and some of the attacks you specifically have to be in the, or on top of the building, or the world maw, that enabled the attack in order to fire it, which does, of course, change how you play. And I definitely do think that was due, some would say overdue. I have not played, I believe there's at least one game in between. I'm not, my wrists are too sore to look it up right now, but I believe there was at least one that I skipped because I don't even remember if I bought it. Was it one of those things where sometimes GOG has a thing where if you buy everything, you get a deal, but if you don't, I don't remember. Whatever. Or I don't even remember if that's still the case or if that's something they only used to do. Or wait, no, you know what? I'm thinking of something else. Wow, I need more sleep these days. Sorry, please disregard. I'm not saying that about GOG. That's about a different website, and I don't even remember which one. Anyway, can you tell I didn't like this game very much? Basically, there was at least one Worms game in between this and Armageddon, I think. The ones I've played are this, Worms United, Worms 2, and Worms Armageddon. And this was the first one that was boring and tedious. And that honestly sounds so messed up. For these are some of the most fun games. Like, even, Worms United, it's imperfect. Honestly, I would almost say it's like a prototype for the greatness of 2 and especially Armageddon. But yes, 3 games in a row that were very similar, that were essentially I mean, if you had released the first 3, well, maybe, okay, if you had released Armageddon as essentially like an expansion pack to 2, it's like, yeah, kind of, And listen, not every sequel has to be like bringing in a ton of brand new things. Like, I freaking love Thief the Metal Age. I'm willing to admit, and I said in my review, my at least one of my videos on it, doesn't bring that much new, compared to like the first one, Thief. Whether you're playing, I mean, I would recommend Thief Gold. I'm not even sure. Can you still even get Thief the Dark Project? Whatever. Thief Gold has a couple of new levels. I loved them. Anyway, Thief Gold, yeah, first Thief, amazing. Like, we hadn't really seen anything like it before. And in some ways, we haven't since either. The Metal Age, you know, it improves certain things. It does not introduce a ton of new things. Neither does Worms Armageddon. The thing is, at the end of the day, I mean, if I have to choose between one of them, it's Thief the Metal Age. But yeah, after 3 games in a row, they definitely needed something new. And I understand why they thought this would work. I 100%. This is not one of those cases where it just feels like, oh, this is just like a corporate cash grab. This is just, oh, it's popular, so let's just, you know. Listen, I never played the full version of Lemmings Paintball. I only played the demo, but playing that thing, boy, did I feel like, okay, they have no freaking clue where to go with this, which I understand, because, like, what else do you do with the Lemmings? I don't know, maybe just leave it and I don't know, count your money and be like, hey, we brought a lot of joy into the world, like the original Lemmings. I will do a video on it at some point. But anyway, I think I'm just... Oh, right. I meant to say this up top. I don't know if it matters, but I did play this on PC. So I think I'll you know what, I'll try to start at this point in the video. I will get into, and I'll try to do some of the most egregious stuff. So I already mentioned that it is genuinely tedious, which I would say has never been my experience with the first 3 of these. And in addition, you know, yeah, honestly, I'll get into just a tiny bit of detail for that, because it might not be immediately obvious. The thing is, between building and repairing and how long, because basically you don't have to choose whether to build or attack for a turn. At first I thought, oh, that's how they keep it from just being, you know, like, essentially you could do both. And that kind of means that you have turns where the player will build one of their own and do some damage to the enemies, and then the enemy will build one of their own and do some damage to one of yours, and on with way too little of, like, a clear, like, what's the word, like a distinct, like, you spend so much of this feeling like you're making no progress. I knew I was in for a rough ride when one of the tutorials, one of the first ones, has me spending just what seemed like endless minutes. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, I'm not sure it was more than 8 total, but doing literally, this is not an exaggeration, nothing other than firing one specific weapon at one specific building. And yeah, it took so many shots to take this thing down. And I appreciate that if I recall correctly, it's been a little while. I think it was that, oh, this is the thing that, if you know, this is the instant kill, instant win button. You know, if you destroy this thing, you win. Fair enough. In that case, it shouldn't be super easy, because then all you have is both sides just trying to just immediately one-shotting that thing. You know, it's just, no, you need that to be. But it took forever. And then it said, now do it again. I'm not going to lie. The first time it said that, I rage quit. I haven't rage quit something in 20 years. I got through it, of course, but it's just like, and listen, I get that a lot of tutorials frickin' suck. I'm not blaming the game for a bad tutorial. Once again, I'm trying to paint a picture of how irritating the game is and how early it, I mean, I guess, fair enough. It tells you very early that this is just going to be so unbelievably, yeah. A lot of the time, level, like the amount of time you're given to complete it also just means that it takes entirely too long. You know, there are so many turns where you accomplish so little that it's essentially like, why am I even doing this? You know what? Let's do a fun one. There are some really cool new weapons. I did quite appreciate. There's an electrical storm that literally drops like electrical appliances. You know, the mortar is now, I think, like a holy man, like maybe a priest or something, and he like drops a bunch of Bibles, or I guess dissolves into Bibles, something along those lines. You know, yeah, that's genuinely fun. I did appreciate there's some enjoyment to be had in getting first person perspective for at least some of the attacks. You know, it's yeah, I appreciate the way they do like airstrike kind of thing, where basically it's a top-down view, which obviously makes it very nice and quick and easy to fix. I'm not sure there was something hugely wrong with that one, but it's variation at least. It's a new, different thing. But I guess that does lead us nicely into the camera. This is the worst camera I've encountered in maybe 10 years in a video game. I think I'll start with just the fact that a non-zero number of occasions, a run was pretty much torpedoed by the fact that just as I was about to fire, it decided to 180-degree flip my character, which, yeah, I mean, I don't think I have to tell you why that, because, like, it happened a fraction of a second before I hit the trigger, so I literally didn't even have time to realize it happened and not pull the trigger, and yeah, that was that one. And I still haven't been able to figure out what even, like, I guarantee I did not accidentally hit a button. Like, I appreciate in that case it's my own freaking fault, but yeah. The worm gets stuck on the geography way too often. Like, I guess ultimately not as often as I've seen in other, you know, that's a big thing here. 3D, again, I'm not certain it's the first Worms 3D. I am not sure I need to ever again play. Like, I keep thinking better of it, but every so often I find myself thinking, you know what? I did really enjoy those first Earthworm 2 games. Earthworm Jim games. Earthworm Jims 1 and 2. Maybe I should do the third, the 3D one, which is the third one, which I do appreciate. That was the same thing with the Prince of Persia, you know. The third one is 3D. That's clever. But then I read the reviews, and it's like, you know, the camera, and yeah, like, I don't think I ever will play another 3D version of a previously 2D franchise, at least not if it is one of these where, like, jumping and the way you engage with the enemy, yeah, I just, I don't know. You know what? Every so often I find myself thinking, maybe it's not so bad that we don't have a third Jazz Jackrabbit, as much as I love those first two, and yes, reviews forthcoming. Let me know if you want me to move them up in the schedule. Because, like, yeah, it probably would have sucked. It would have been one more of those, you know. I haven't played every Sonic 3D. You know, I think I've only played one Sonic 3D, come to think of it. Black Knight, I think it was, yeah. Absolutely terrible. Like, I can sit down and play, let's see, Sonics 1, 2, and 3, and Sonic and Knuckles pretty much any time. I don't think I'll ever play Sonic and Black Knight ever again, under any circumstances. I did an entire video on it. I'm not going to be over it here. Yeah, I don't know, is there more to even say? Sometimes weapons will behave very strangely. I had a grenade. Sometimes it just refuses to actually arc or bounce. Other times it does so excessively. Once again, it can absolutely ruin one of your attempts at a level. I don't hate the art style. I appreciate this thing of, like, at least some of it is like kind of ancient. So, you know, the thing that drops your if you do like an airstrike sort of thing is like this mechanical bird made of wood. Appreciate that. The old woman is back, and she's now wearing period appropriate garb. The worms are also, you know, yeah, I don't know. I guess it's really not that big a deal, but I did think the opening briefing videos went on for too long, which is just not really a problem that has particularly plagued, not at least not the first three. And the joke is just like, oh, let's say something that's kind of a non sequitur, like, oh, Egypt has a lot of sand. Like, seriously, so much sand. There's just sand everywhere. I'm not joking. That's almost verbatim. I think I may have changed it just slightly, but it says it 3 times. We get it. Okay, sand. It's not funny. It wasn't funny the first time. It was bad the second time. I was so frustrated by the third time, and then thankfully it did move on. But yeah, it's just, yeah. Let's see. I forget if this is the first one, but I did appreciate that there's now sometimes more than 2 teams. That's kind of cool. Let's see. I feel like that does pretty much cover everything that I have to say. For the controls are more advanced, and obviously it takes a little bit of getting used to. I did think that I saw at least one person say, "Oh, they really hated aiming with the arrow keys." Maybe it's just me, but a lot of the time I was able to aim with a mouse. But with that said, the mouse, okay, to be clear, the following, you know what, maybe there's a fix. I'm not going to bother looking for it because the game just has me, I need to be done with this game. I need to move on to the next Worms game and play other games so I can get this out of my system. But at least if you don't look up a fix, my experience was that the mouse is either a little too slow or a little too fast pretty much all the time if you aim in first person. It wasn't a problem when aiming with the bird's eye view. But yeah, it'll go like this or like this. I didn't really find an in-between. And before you say, is that a big deal? Keep in mind your turns have a very specific time limit. And for that, it once again, you might end up not being able to do it. Because you can't like pause the timer until you've aimed, which I appreciate might also be a little bit, would take some tension away. The jump is more or less intact, but it is essentially just on one jump key, which is fine. It bothers me more. Oh, and now you can sort of control, like, it's not quite a parachute, but, once you jump high enough, you can sort of move slowly. That's neat. I appreciate that. But it is, sometimes it works in a way that is not what you ask for. And once again, sometimes you get stuck on geography. Level design isn't bad. I just wish they weren't so big. Like, you could spend so much of your turn just walking between parts of the level that you literally do need to walk across. And that, again, I'm sorry, but I don't think I've ever had that experience. And in my many, many hours of playing the first 3, I can't recall ever just having to spend an entire turn just walking from one place to another. Like, I mean, there are times where you may not be able to attack. Maybe you have to like carve your way through something, and that's maybe a little annoying, but at least it isn't boring, like just walking with this right, the camera, it moves a little bit too much, but also sometimes too little. You can sort of move it with the mouse, except for when it decides it doesn't feel like it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really want to be talking about this anymore. I don't like doing negative videos anymore. I should have been more willing to admit that this game probably was too frustrating for me to feel like playing. Yeah, it definitely at times is quite challenging. I wouldn't necessarily say I had particularly much fun with it. Like, the learning curve was, it's a Worms game, so there's a lot you have to learn. There were times where I was like, oh, that's cool, learning new things, but as soon as I was just playing it regularly, it was just kind of, yeah. Yeah. I honestly, I think that's what it's gonna be for now. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know these days I try to keep these more like positive and but there's so little positive to say here, and I want to make it clear, I don't feel like other reviewers lied to me or downplayed it or anything like that. This is on me. I made a mistake. I should have just listened, because there are a number of negative reviews of this that genuinely do, yeah, get very nicely across the, yeah. I guess I'll just very briefly note about, so the building, it feels a little, I don't know exactly what to compare it to, because it's too turn-based to quite compare it to like an RTS, but I also would say it's closer to that as far as how many different, well, let's see. Yeah, like the way the buildings work, the way that it gives you, no, wait, no, that also doesn't work. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I don't know. In some ways, it did remind me of stuff like Heroes of Might and Magic 3, you know. I guess the big thing is, instead of, well, yeah, that also goes for a number of RGSs, you know. Here it is more the fact that you are, like, you're getting access to new weapons, and then, you know, rather than having to train units necessarily and then be, you know, yeah. I think that might just about cover. Honestly, I think, you know what, this might help paint a picture of. So there was at least one level where I took out every enemy worm one by one, methodically, and then the level kept going because I still had to destroy the various structures. So it was just me with no opposition, just the timer ticking down, just firing one shot after another at too many of the same buildings for entirely too long. And I wish that they had just made, like, because honestly, you know what I think could have been pretty cool? Make a version of this that's like sudden death, so every building and worm, if you hit them, they immediately go down. And you have to choose between A, building, B, repairing, C, attacking. Because at that point, I think, you know, first of all, it's going to take significantly less time. Second, at that point, you are much more on edge. Like, there was way too much of this where I was just sitting and just, I mean, I don't know. It's not necessarily that enemy turns take forever. I had actually read that somewhere. I don't know where they got their information. I don't think that was a user review. I don't even remember where I read that, but whatever. That's not, you know, but yeah, I don't know. It's so that wasn't, but yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I wish that they had just, because that's, I'm sorry, when you are developing a video game, I appreciate that sometimes you run out of time. I wish that they had at some point in developing this realized, hey, this, at bare minimum, let's add, like, you know, this, you know, what I just described. Let's make that a way that the player can just play all the way through the campaigns as well, because right now it's not. And yeah, I feel like ending on something a little more positive. I will say the jetpack remains fun. I think did I actually manage to forget mentioning that in Worms Armageddon? See, I think I did say in that video. I can't say everything because we'll be here forever. But yeah, the the jetpack is indeed still quite fun. And now you, of course, you know, you have, it's WASD rather than just left, right to move. And yeah, that is genuinely a fun. It's difficult to disappoint me with a jetpack. It really has to be truly terrible. There are games that scored another, you know, star on the 1 to 10 scale for having a jetpack that wasn't abysmal. So yeah, I don't know. I think it all. If we're talking about is it fun to play, then this is a 3 out of 10. But as mentioned, there are some things that I do appreciate about it. The 3D doesn't look half bad, you know. That was a thing for a number of. I guess this wasn't super early for 3D, was it? Because some of these others, like I remember, like it was like 1999 for Prince of Persia 3D. This was 5 years later, which is almost 500 in game development years. So yeah, um, yeah. Overall, the good and the bad even out to 5 agonizingly slow levels that are made so much more frustrating by the camera. Getting stuck, you know, your worm getting stuck on things, and how unbelievably long it just takes to get through this. Out of 10.